My name is Tom Van Der Rostein. I'm the president of the Louisville Forum. And tonight, we're going to start our program with the presentation of the Fleur-De-Lis Award. And since 1985, the Louisville Forum's Fleur-De-Lis Award has been given to a distinguished member of the Louisville community to recognize that individual's significant contributions throughout his or her career. This is the 35th anniversary of the Fleur-De-Lis Award, and the Forum has been fortunate to have had some of Louisville's best and brightest over the years as Fleur-De-Lis recipients. Some are present tonight, and I would ask that each of these past winners please stand and be recognized. I think is Jack Guthrie here this evening. There he is. Class of 2009. And also we have Paula and Frank Harshaw, class of 2017 in the back. Thank you. The Fleur-De-Lis Award is awarded in recognition of those who have sought to make Louisville a better place through their civic, charitable, and nonprofit work. This year's recipient of the Fleur-De-Lis Award, Dawne Gee, is just such a person. A native of Louisville, the daughter of Joanna and Walter Smith, a graduate of PRP High School, Dawne holds Bachelor of Arts degrees in both communications and biology, both from the University of Louisville. She has two sons, Eric and Alexander, and a daughter, Brittany. Dawne started working in television when she was just 15 years old at Chicago's International Television in 1978. She then worked in radio for 17 years before beginning her career at Wave TV. In August of 1994, almost 25 years ago, Dawne joined the Wave 3 crew. Dawne now anchors the 5:30, 7, and 7:30 news and hosts a program named Wave Country with Dawne Gee, weekdays at noon. She's been described as the Oprah of Louisville. Fun facts that I learned about Dawne preparing for this presentation is that she hosted the Dalai Lama once when he visited Louisville. She also carried the Olympic torch in 2001. And like me, she is a big fan of the musician James Taylor. And apparently makes a locally famous mean banana pudding and buttermilk pie. Throughout her career, Ms. Gee has made it a top priority to give back to the community through her service and contributions, particularly those involving healthcare. She is actively involved in the Spina Bifida Association, the American Cancer Society, the Multiple Sclerosis Society, the American Lung Association, the Lupus Foundation of America, the Community Health Charities, Indian Summer Camp, and St. Baldrick's Foundation. Ms. Gee also serves on the board of the Brain Injury Association of Kentucky and the Guardia Care Advisory Council, and has founded two nonprofits, one of which published a cookbook, A Recipe to End Hunger, with 100% of the proceeds going to charity. Ms. Gee also hosts numerous charity events each year. This impressive resume of civic service shows that Ms. Gee truly lives her life in the mold of Louisville's most famous native son and heavyweight champion, Muhammad Ali, who said, "My service to others is the rent I pay to stay on this earth." Therefore, it's with gratitude for and in recognition of her lifetime of civic service to the greater Louisville community, it is my great pleasure on behalf of the Louisville Forum to announce this year's Fleur-De-Lis Award winner, Dawne Gee.
Wow, thank you all so very much. I appreciate it so very much. I am so honored that I cannot begin to tell you. I'm an emotional person, so I'll try to not be teary-eyed, but I had a rabbi who told me that every time I cry, he said, don't hide your heart. He said, every time you cry, you baptize yourself. So I've been baptized about 8 million times now. To Tom, who said, I said, I won't be long, and he said, no, talk as long as you want. He doesn't know me, does he, Ken? I thank you. To the Louisville Forum, that you all can have civil conversation, and we have Dr. Bendapudi here, and Dr. Capilouto, who's here, U of L, UK, and that we can sit and talk. You all really give us hope in this world. So thank you that you can have that civil conversation. I want to say to my general manager, thank you for letting me bring shoes in and pull taps in for kids that have cancer, and to have 100 dinners in the middle of your lobby for the holiday to feed the hungry, and everything else I bring in that building, and to even walk away from work quite a few number of times in order to MC things. I thank you for allowing me to follow my heart more than you will ever know. Thank you, Ken Selvaggi. That's my general manager from Wave 3. My mom and dad, I make them work so hard and I don't pay them anything. I make them work very hard, and they are always there for me. My dad is the closest thing to Christ I know, and then my mom showed me how to kick the door down in order to get where I want to go, so I'll be closer to him. So I thank them both. To my mom and my dad, I love you more than you will ever know, and they are always with me, and so you will see them. So I am so grateful. I have a lot of chance to speak for nonprofits for health because our family is a medical mess. And so I always want to do what I can to make a difference. I just want to end with saying that when you see this award, you do not just see me. You see everybody that ever stops to help me do what I need to do. And sometimes I do over 200 events in a year. It is not just me. I do nothing alone. So even for everybody here who has ever helped me, I thank you, God bless you, and I will call on you again. If God wanted us to struggle alone, he would have made one little naked man in the sand and quit. But he didn't. And here we all are. So I want to remind you that on March 10th, I will be having my fundraiser for A Recipe to End Hunger. You are all invited. I'm still looking for auction items and sponsors and all of that, but 100% of what we raise goes to nonprofits that feed people. They're doing the work. Like, I'm not a good person when I don't eat. I just need you to know that. Thank you for dinner tonight. But we need to do that, and so they're doing a great job. So what we do at A Recipe to End Hunger all year long, we make money, and then we give it to the nonprofits that are doing the work but just can't seem to make enough money. That's all I do all year long with A Recipe to End Hunger. So thank you. March 10th at the Grand, A Recipe to End Hunger starts at 2. The first gospel group is Hush Harbor. And then we have another group, Cover Me Bad, and then Louisville Crashers. Thank you all for helping me do this. Thank you. Didn't I tell you I talk a lot?
No, you're fine. Thank you, Dawne. I forgot before we started the program today, and my phone almost went off. I'm going to ask everyone before we proceed to please check your electronic devices and please turn them off or put them on mute or vibrate so we don't interrupt this program. I'm going to ask Dr. Bendapudi and Dr. Capilouto to come up on to the stage here at this time. And also, I'm going to ask that at this point in time, this program will be recorded on Metro Television, and while this is a debate on higher education, we ask that you show respect for our speakers and panelists today, and please refrain from school cheers while they are speaking. And also, we have questionnaire slips on each of the tables. Please fill those out because we're going to have a lot of time to ask some questions of the doctors tonight, the presidents, so please feel free to fill those out. Dan Hartledge and Iris Wilbur will be collecting those. I think I get a little feedback here. So now we're going to start the broadcast program of a portion of our program today. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tom Van Der Rostein, and I serve as the president of the Louisville Forum. We meet on the second Wednesday of every month at Vincenzo's Restaurant. The Louisville Forum is a nonpartisan public issues group founded in 1984. The Forum hosts debates and discussions of contemporary and sometimes controversial public policy issues that affect the greater Louisville community. Although we may take up issues that have a national interest, we try to highlight the local perspective. For more information on the Louisville Forum, our programs, or to make reservations, please visit our website at louisvilleforum.org or on Twitter. Our topic and speakers today are the state of higher education in Kentucky. Our speakers tonight is the first ever dual appearance of both U of L President Neeli Bendapudi and UK President Eli Capilouto. In order to allow more time for our guests to ask questions tonight, I will keep my opening comments brief. I'm going to introduce the doctors and then the presidents, and we'll let them go from there. Dr. Neeli Bendapudi is the 18th president of the University of Louisville. The university's board of trustees selected her in April 2018 after a nationwide search, making her both the first woman to be the president of U of L and the first person of color to be president of U of L. Prior to coming to Louisville, Dr. Bendapudi was a provost and executive vice chancellor at the University of Kansas. And I promise, as a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, I will not hold that against you, Dr. Bendapudi. Dr. Bendapudi has a PhD in marketing from the University of Kansas and teaching experience at the Ohio State University and Texas A&M University. In 2011, she returned to KU to become the School of Business Dean and the H.D. Price Professor of Business. In 2016, she was promoted to Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor. Dr. Bendapudi and her husband Venkat, a senior lecturer at KU School of Business, both hail from the city of Vizag and have one daughter, Sarisha. Dr. Eli Capilouto became the 12th president of the University of Kentucky on July 1st, 2011. He's a native of Montgomery, Alabama. Dr. Capilouto previously served as the provost of the University of Alabama, Birmingham, UAB, and dean of the UAB School of Public Health. Dr. Capilouto holds several undergraduate and graduate degrees from schools within the University of the Alabama system, a doctorate of dental medicine from UAB, a doctorate in health policy and management from Harvard University. He and his wife, Dr. Mary Lynn Capilouto, a former dean of the UAB School of Dentistry, also have one daughter. Please welcome Presidents Dr. Neeli Bendapudi and Eli Capilouto.
Let's come back to the challenge of being an urban research university. We have to provide the support for research, but the University of Louisville, we have the highest percentage of students who are of color, other than Kentucky State University, if you look at where we are. And that is an incredible opportunity, an incredible honor, but also a challenge when it comes to keeping them engaged and providing the resources so that every single student has the opportunity to be as successful as they dream to be. Hopefully that helps. Will you remember this? All higher education, public universities, research universities, and in our case, urban universities.
Neeli. Let's give her some applause. Come on, that's good. So,
Thank you.
I want to welcome Neeli again, and I've been at this job a little longer than she has, and I think I'm a pretty decent judge of when somebody's got everything you need to do these kinds of jobs, and Louisville has really landed an outstanding leader, and I'll tell you why, because not only is she smart and certainly has a compelling message to share, you just heard it. One of the things I always look for is a little humor. She's got that. That's important. And then the thing that's probably your most valuable currency in these jobs is do you convey trust? And you have that. So lucky for University of Louisville and lucky for the Commonwealth. I've said before, you can't have a great city without a great university, and you can't have a great state without a top-tier research university. So those are our responsibilities. And at the University of Kentucky, we have taken this most seriously. I think Neeli's done a great job in framing what we face. I won't repeat that. I think she's done a great job. I want to tell you a little bit about how the University of Kentucky, during my tenure, has tried to confront these. And I see I have two of my board members here, Britt Brockman and David Hopp, and I have to thank them because a lot of things we presented to them, I like to say they were informed risk, but they were risk. We took a chance. The first thing we decided to do is there were two magic ingredients to be a successful research university. One was infrastructure, and the other was talent. And you all know that if you're involved in companies. When companies want to come to Kentucky, the first thing they look for is talent. It's no different at a research university. We thought that we need to invest in facilities on our campus. In the last 7 years, we've invested $2.3 billion. Only 10% of that has come from the state of Kentucky. So we are grateful to alumni, donors, creative partnerships, and we took out debt. That's the risk part. Okay? But this is what we wanted to happen. And it was important to us. Neeli knows this. I've met some of your faculty tonight. You've heard from them. They have an incredible commitment and passion. But a reality is, over time, you've got to have a competitive salary plan and benefits and to maintain those. So we've worked to do that in challenging times. And the other thing, University of Louisville has a splendid record when it comes to diversity. We certainly wanted to follow that lead, and we've had recent recognitions that tell me we're getting there. Forbes magazine picked 500 companies, universities throughout the United States they call leaders in this diversity area, and we're in the top 10% of that. Chronicle of Higher Education said great place to work because you want your employees to be able to put who they serve first, and these are indicators. So we have the talent and the infrastructure. What did it allow us to do? So we built 14 residence halls, 7,000 beds in a compressed period of time. It was not for the beds, it was really for the learning spaces. 19 living learning communities, 600 freshman engineering students can live in one residence hall. You can imagine what happens in building that network. So over time, and Louisville has sort of similar challenges and records. When we look at who we admit, first of all, we wanted to keep the best and brightest in Kentucky. We've admitted 700 National Merit Scholars in the top 10 of all public research universities in the country. That's great, but 25% of our students come from families whose average income is $19,500. Cost of attendance at the University of Kentucky, you put in room, board, tuition, books, it's well over $20,000. So this is a lift. But this is most of Kentucky, and this access and affordability that Neeli talked about has to remain of primary concern. We decided in these headwinds we had to be more and do more for Kentucky. We like to say with the University for Kentucky, we have a responsibility throughout all 120 counties. So thanks to my predecessors, in the area of health, we are doing more. This is a remarkable record, and they started with a simple why. You know, why do you do these things? And my predecessor, Lee Todd, and Mike Harf, who he recruited, said no Kentuckian should have to leave home, no matter how serious their illness, to get the most complicated care. So they decided they were going to build a tertiary quaternary hospital in a town of 330,000 people. Trustee Brockman approved all that debt. It was bold. They've gone from 19,000 admissions to 42,000 admissions a year. We did over 200 transplants. We did 45 heart transplants that are 15th in the country, all because of a passion and a commitment and some informed decision making. Gotta take those risks. So we wanted to do more in education. We graduate 1,000 more undergraduates a year than we did 5 years ago. 55% of those are in the STEM and health fields in high demand. But what I'm most pleased with is most of that can be attributed to keeping our doors open widest for underrepresented minorities and low-income families. But we recognize we're still not doing enough in that area. We've started a capital campaign. Central to that is raising funds for those low-income kids who are performing well. They will astound you, okay? But if they don't have the financial means, it is hard to persist and persevere. And then the last thing about research, doing more in research. So it is the most expensive thing a university can do, by far. You do not, quote, make money in research. You weave together your resources to go compete for money, but it's not a profit center. You'd agree with me?
Completely.
Okay, so we have last year $380 million of funded research at UK. Certainly it has collateral benefits, a ripple effect in the economy and all. But let me tell you what's behind this $380 million. I heard recently, and you don't hear about these things, so a chance for me to share what our stories of my heroes, our faculty, excuse me, I got to do it. Someone told me that during the height of the Watergate era and the focus on Richard Nixon that consumed all the front pages, on page 27 of the New York Times was a little article about cell phones. So I'm going to tell you what you can't find in our local papers. I'm happy the New York Times has picked up some of this, but this is what's so important to support in a research university. We had two biologists. They've been laboring in obscurity for years to map the genome of a nearly extinct salamander that lives in a remote lake near Mexico City. So you say, well, that's great. Believe me, people give awards of ridicule for this kind of research, you know? So why is that important? That genome is 3 times the size of a human genome. And we know from our work in mapping the human genome that today at the University of Kentucky, we have precision medicine. We can look at the genetics of your tumor, the genetics of yourself, and give you a more effective drug to combat cancer. We know that those who suffer from sickle cell disease, we can have genetic editing today and completely eliminate those symptoms. So something in our DNA, it's just a big book of recipes that tells your body what to do. All right? What does that salamander have in its cookbook? For some reason, that salamander can regenerate limbs, can regenerate half its brain, can regenerate a severed spinal cord. So somewhere in there, maybe 15, 20 years from now, we unlock the mysteries on how we could edit human genes and solve people's problems who face that. I'll pick another. We love bourbon in Kentucky. I didn't drink bourbon until I got Kentucky. The only thing bad about tonight is I won't let myself drink before I speak, so I didn't get to have any bourbon. But as we distill more, there's a byproduct. Our scientists call it spent grain. Well, we take that byproduct and we've been able to sell that to feed livestock. That's great. We're producing so much now, the demand for livestock is less, so we got too much of this stuff. You can't just drop it down the drain. It would be environmentally unsafe. So we have people working on that. What are we going to do? How are we going to treat this? That's important to Kentucky. You don't hear about this either. The last thing I'm going to tell you about, those are about the future. I want to tell you about what we confront today. I tell people when Kentucky hurts, our universities hurt. Why? Because we know we're here to serve. I can't think of anything greater than the public health crisis we have now around opioids. Okay? This is an addiction. but it is a disease. It is not a failure of judgment or character. Most people who became addicted were innocently exposed through a legal prescription. Your addiction can develop in 5 days. Chemical changes in the brain, it's chronic for life. You're combating this. You all know, we're one of the epicenters of this for a lot of reasons. It hollows out individuals, families, entire communities. You can't recruit a business in Kentucky if you have people who are suffering from addiction. Companies don't want to deal with it. It weakens our communities. We got 10,000 children in foster care. We got another 80,000 not living with their biological parents. This is at the root of it. So what are we going to do? Again, starting long before I got to the University of Kentucky, you build teams. And we've added to those teams. So the federal government, and I thank Leader McConnell for increasing NIH funding during this period. There's more funding for opioid research, for aging and dementia and so forth, and we go after those funds. But in opioids, we put together a proposal where we have a plan to reduce opioid deaths and adverse events by 40% in 3 years. We lose 1,600 people a year in Kentucky. So we're talking about turning those numbers around. And so that's what you support in a research university. All those people who are at the forefront working day and night on those issues, you don't hear about them. They don't get that much acclaim. They're driven by passion. But if we don't support them, we will lose that talent. And that, I think, is what distinguishes a research university. Thank you very much.
That's wonderful. That was absolutely wonderful. While we wait for the questions, I'm so glad you shared that. I want you to know the exciting things happening in Louisville on research because again, the partnerships that we are building are so strong. Just 5 days ago, this just came out and it is being picked up around the world. We'll see. But there's a protein that's introduced for immunocell therapy. When they're trying to say if someone's fighting cancer, typically you take out their T cells, fortify it, and give it back to them. And so researchers right here at the University of Louisville were working on a protein that's supposed to improve the efficacy of those T cells. And I don't know how they got into it and looked at it, but they were examining what happens if you give just that protein directly into mice, okay? So not just increasing the effectiveness of it, but what does this do? Because when you take out T cells, fortify them, put them back in, the cost, the time, the autoimmune responses that might be triggered. And they found, in mice models, mind you, that if you gave them this protein, and then later on injected them with liver cancer, ovarian cancer, all kinds of things, the mice became immune to it. They were able to fight it. So it's now, does it mean that down the road we could all get a vaccination that would actually help you prevent getting cancer, not just treat it after you get it? I think that gives me goosebumps just thinking about the possibilities. And they're also, part of our DNA is applied research. So they're also trying to say, what does this mean? How do we commercialize this? How do we prove it? Where do we test? So that's very, very exciting. And similarly, I love the idea of tackling problems that are important right here in Kentucky. That is incredibly important. We are a public university, so I think all we do should have ripple effects. It doesn't mean that the work here in opioids doesn't change the world, but I truly think that our focus at the University of Louisville is making a change here in Louisville and in the Commonwealth and beyond. So some of the things I'm excited about, we do have students here from 119 of the 120 counties. Next year, I'm going to that one county and finding a student and bringing them here. So the point is, we have the opportunity to tackle big problems. The University of Louisville, once again, not me, I can brag on the signature partnership that we have, where we're in West Louisville combating problems. We are addressing the issue of aging. what do? We are supposedly the aging capital of the world. That's what Forbes says right here in Louisville. So we are saying, how do we partner? How do we build that expertise in aging, the Traeger Institute that you have seen? And I'm very excited about new models to build healthcare access and affordability. For our dean of dentistry and nursing, those deans decided that they would partner and open up primary care locations. Because when you have a toothache, when you have a dental problem, that's hard to ignore. People come in, but many of them don't have a primary care physician. So the nurse practitioner is right there to work with them and treat other issues that they might have. So these are the kinds, I won't go on and on and on, but I was excited about the research because that's what draws us here. And I hope you all realize that it doesn't pay off immediately, and also that it's not about making money now. It's about investing in what might happen many years down the road. So, thank you. And I have to do two things now. A, brag on my vice chair from my board who is here, Jim Rogers, and turns out that your board chair, we are going to claim him too, because Britt went to undergraduate UK and came to the U of L for his medical degree. So don't fight over cats, and do not fight over cats and cardinals. Here's my message to you. This is sibling rivalry. We're all public universities on behalf of every citizen of the Commonwealth. So Eli's getting worried that I'm claiming Britt. Yes, we are, because we love to say, we'll show off. Both universities can claim him, but that's one of the other messages. On research, we're building bridges. I looked today, we have 15 different research projects between the UFL and UK in one area. So I think that's very exciting for the future.
Thank you for your all's remarks. We'll jump right into audience questions. Friendly reminder, if you have questions you would like to submit, to please fill out the cards available on your table and give us a wave and we'll walk over to you. To both university presidents, as mentioned prior, you can't have a great city without a great university. How do you maintain relationships with the mayors of Lexington and Louisville?
I think that's incredibly important. People talk about this as the town-gown relationship based on the 13th century robes that we all wear, the gown and the town. I think a very strong relationship is important for both parties. So since I've been here, I have to say the mayor, the governor, everybody has been incredibly welcoming and saying we recognize it needs to be successful. Most recently, what we did is we took all of my senior leadership team and met with the mayor's senior leadership team. And we drove around Louisville and said, what are the problems? What are areas we can cooperate? What can we do? And we certainly stay in pretty close communication.
We have a new mayor in Lexington. She served on the city council before, so I've known her a long time. Previous mayor Jim Gray, great visionary, had a wonderful relationship with him. Our destinies are certainly intertwined. We also feel a responsibility and see an opportunity as Louisville goes to recruit businesses, companies. We have a talented workforce. 7 years ago, 20% of our students from out of state. Now it's 33%. We could have even more. Kentuckians, according to our surveys, 77% of those remain in Kentucky, but 44% of these non-residents remain in Kentucky. I think more of them would stay if they had wonderful job opportunities. So we try to work with Mayor Fisher in his office. We've invited Mayor Fisher to visit our campus to sort of understand more about how we could be helpful, and I think he's doing that in the next few weeks. So we're all in this together. And, you know, urban is the focus. 99% of the GDP growth and the wages and everything are in these concentrated urban areas. We have these responsibilities at a rural level too, but the real competition today is urban versus urban. How can our urban areas compete against those other urban areas that you read about? And that's where I think leveraging the strengths of universities can be so important.
A comment and a question. First, thank you both for your positivity. Question, how can your two great universities work together to help move Kentucky, the nation, and the world forward to a greater future?
I'm now the senior president of all universities in Kentucky. Didn't take me long to get there either. I mean, one of the reasons I came to Kentucky is there was this vision started back with higher education reform. There were goals set. We were going to be stronger by degrees. We wanted to move by 2020, 2021. 60% of all Kentuckians would have a higher education degree. That could be a community college, four-year college, technical college. When the first year I got here, we were recognized as making the greatest strides nationwide. We've slowed a little, but I don't think we should lose sight of that. That degree, setting up opportunities for continuous learning, that's the responsibility we have to the Commonwealth. People ask me, where are the economic engines in Kentucky? And I say, where you have the greatest number of people with a higher education degree. That makes for an economic engine. So that's a responsibility I think we share.
I think that's well put. We're trying to collaborate even more. And I think the fact that I'm going to speak for both of us here, Eli, so you're not allowed to contradict me, at least in public. You got it? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. But the fact that we have a good relationship and our teams are working more together, I hope you will see a lot more collaboration, which...
Tell them about the innovation.
Yeah, in fact, one of the things that we just did together, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity to partner with the University of Kentucky in this, is we just started an innovation hub here, where it's to help anybody in the state of Kentucky, when they have an idea, bring it to market. And so it's with Accelerate Health, which has been here, very successful for a long time, but trying to create the infrastructure. We call these like core facilities in a way, like, facilities that anybody can come and access. But that's an example of what we are doing together right here in Louisville.
And what's great about that proposal, that was one we had to go together to get funding. And it's not only serves the Commonwealth, but the region. So we're known as an innovation hub. We have talent here that can go out and train people in other states. It heightens your reputation.
And absolutely, and I've discovered that Louisville is a place, and I know that the rest of the Commonwealth is that way. If we can get people to come here and just see it and not go by their stereotypes of what they might imagine, once they come here, there's a stickiness to this place. People don't want to leave. So that's part of what these do, is allow people to come and explore what we have to offer.
Next question, and by the way, I think you each have a microphone there. Now, if you turn both of them on, I think they'll work so that you don't have to share the microphone.
We're going to sing at the end.
He's been promising that all day.
Okay, we're going to take one of those microphones away now. Several questions have to do with various versions of statements made by presidential candidates and others about someday having free college tuition, or in some form the ability of anybody going to college. In a general sense, could you comment on that? Your thoughts? Is it possible? If it is, how would you do it? Just sort of react to that whole concept.
It reminds me, I used to do research on health insurance reform and extending health insurance coverage. Uwe Reinhardt, an economist from Princeton, used to note that in all these surveys, everybody wanted health insurance for all. But then you ask him in the same survey how much they're willing to pay for it, and he used to say, at most, about 50 cents. So that's all great. That comes with a big price tag. I think that'd be hard to swallow in many ways. Nonetheless, given what we both shared earlier and our concentration on this, I'll tell you what we learned at the University of Kentucky. So we admit a class of 5,100 students. Take one of the years, 800 of those students didn't return. So everybody immediately says, gee, they couldn't make it academically. We had 300 students that didn't return who had a B average or higher. We had 500 that didn't return that had a C plus average or higher. So they're not in academic trouble. So we looked carefully at those groups, did some analyses. I'll tell you about the group that had a B or higher average. 300 students, B or higher average, don't return for the second year. We looked at the cost of attendance and then stacked up their grants, scholarships, loans, and said, what is the gap between the cost of attendance and the financial resources they have? That's their unmet need. On average, for that group that didn't come back, $7,000. So then we looked at the students who had a B or higher average that came back. You know what their gap was? Not only was it zero, they had more money than it took to go to college. Okay, so we're trying to use our resources in a targeted way. We know if we can make awards to these students, we can improve their likelihood of graduating from the University of Kentucky by 20 absolute percentage points. It's a focus of our capital campaign. Don and Myra Ball, gift to the University of Kentucky, focusing on their two counties where they grew up, $10 million to meet that unmet need. So I think as a policy decision, sure, I'd like it. I don't know how realistic it is. But in the meantime, we have a responsibility to do everything we can.
I agree. I'm a business person by training, by academic background, and so while I think it's a very laudable goal, I don't know how that could be executed now. However, maybe there's an idea, maybe there's a way. I think that we need to take the view of directing the resources we have. We've already started that at the University of Louisville, moving more dollars to those with need. When you have 38% who are Pell Grant eligible, you can see that that becomes a big pressure. So to try to guide more dollars there. And honestly, I would say, maybe put it a little bit differently, it's not just about getting a college degree. Usually, my own background, I guess, but the group that really tugs at my heartstrings are first-generation college students and those with low income. When you have low income, you get it, they don't have the financial capital, but when you have a first-generation college student, lots of rural populations have that. Kansas, where I came from, had this very, very similar issue. They don't have the social capital. They don't know how to navigate the system. They don't know what degrees go where. I think our responsibility should be, while we think about getting more people in, our responsibility should be to the ones who've started in college, making sure that they pick the right majors, that they're going towards areas of interest to them that also lead to productive opportunities for them after education. So retention, progression, these are very important. And I do think there are paths such as community college. None of those should be scoffed at, because when you're looking at affordability, I find that some of our best students spent 2 years in a community college and then transferred. So it is a very real issue. And I would add there are three things, in my mind, why students leave. One is, of course, everybody thinks it's academic preparedness. If somebody leaves, they just assume. Certainly that's a part of it for some people. The second piece is the financial. And the third piece is a sense of belonging. whether they believe these are spaces that are welcoming to them, these are places where they can succeed. So for us, the challenge is for the people who need education the most to break out of the cycle of poverty, how do we create an environment where they know there are resources, there are places they can go? So that's just, I guess we both agree on how that might play out.
Thank you. Among us tonight are several business leaders, community leaders, those that operate, run businesses. Sort of a common question that we get from our other programming is workforce development. You know, as public institutions, it's not only good enough to educate the jobs of today, but, you know, looking down the road to be prepared and create, you know, a talent pipeline to address the needs in the future. What are your public universities doing to address the short-term and long-term workforce needs?
That's an excellent question, and as I said, I sometimes joke that I'm a recovering banker and I've sat on public and private company boards. So these are questions that really resonate with me. I love that you made the distinction, the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow. We were talking about this earlier. We certainly want, one of the things research universities offer to industry is they come and talk to us about what do you see happening. Because one of the things we do is we are pollinators of ideas. When you're in one company, you might understand your company, you look at your competitors, but usually there's an industry set within which you're operating. But one of the benefits of a university is we have people who work across sectors, who work across industries, across companies. So some of the things we are doing for the jobs of today is First Build. If you go to GE and First Build, or Kindred and Hive, opportunities for our students to be working with and alongside professionals in these areas so that they can quickly learn, are these the areas of interest to me? What are the skills I need? What's a portfolio of skills that I build? But I also believe, and I'm going to put a plug once again for a broad liberal arts education as well. Because the truth is, the hottest commodity in the market right now is someone with a humanities degree who knows how to code. Okay? So that's the jobs of the future as well. So we've got to make sure, in business we say, don't pick winners and losers, like let the market speak. I will explain why I'm referencing that with higher education. We need to support all areas, just like that salamander might hold the cure. A few years ago, if you were studying Chinese or Arabic, people probably told you, why are you doing that? You're wasting your time. And now we can't have enough people in there. So anyway, the workforce of the future, nobody knows. We need to be investing in the critical thinking, communication, working in diverse teams, having a global appreciation.
Neeli, that was outstanding. I want to make the following observation to add to it. Periodically at the University of Kentucky, to realize while we come to work every day, I go sit in on a class, especially if it's a great teacher. You know, they're inspiring. So a week ago, I went to a philosophy class. It wasn't a subject I would have chosen in college. What I loved is the mixture of majors. And there we had business, marketing, mathematics, pre-profession, health professions, you name it, they're all in there. And the professor does a magical job. They have readings addressing a particular question, meaning and purpose in life. It's very thought-provoking, but then once a week they break into small groups. He gives them 3 or 4 questions, and they have to respond to these. So these are kids from all over Kentucky and other states. They come, those who are strong with faith, those who are not, those who are, you would classify as conservative or liberal, but they sit around that table together. So I walked around and talked to each one of those groups. What was the most common thing I heard? I said, why do you like this course? It's made me think. Critical thinking. Analytical thinking. That's what a college should bestow upon you, because we really don't know what those jobs are going to look like. You're going to have to teach yourself. You're going to have to work in teams, and that can be built, as Neeli has just said, within the humanities in a remarkable way. And the one last thing I have to say, I've been looking over at you, Dawne, hearing your story tonight. We survey our students to see how many of them have had what we call high impact experiences, really outside of the classroom, internships, co-ops, research with a faculty member, and one of them is service learning. Because we want people to follow in your footsteps. I'm happy to report to you, you got a lot of foot soldiers behind you who will follow your lead, but thank you for all you do.
We have just a minute left or so on this, so we thought we might just open it back up to you each, if you guys each had just a parting shot or two in terms of the state of higher education.
Okay, you can tell who the rookie is because I'm jumping right in. So let me see what I can do. I have been thinking about this a great deal. Why should anybody go to college? What happens? And I'm very proud that I worked with the US Army in putting Army University together. So at that time, I picked up on what they talk about knowing, being, and doing. So I'd like to end on that. I'll twist it around for my purpose a little bit. There are some universities that focus on the knowing, and that's great, that's wonderful, but it's not enough. Because as a business person, I used to joke, these are universities where they can run every econometric model, but I wouldn't hire them to run a lemonade stand, okay? Just knowing is not enough. There are other schools that focus on doing something. And that's wonderful. You're learning a trade, you're learning a craft, you're learning something. But unless you also teach them how to think, how to retool if necessary, that's not enough. So I see as the future for the University of Louisville, combining the knowing and the doing with the being. What does it mean to be a responsible citizen? What does it mean to be a professional? So one of my big things is at the University of Louisville, creating an environment where we prepare students for ideas. We do not protect them from ideas. A place like the Forum, where you can have civil discourse and absolutely disagree with each other, but do it in an agreeable fashion and understand that you might disagree on an idea, but that doesn't mean you cannot be friends. You can be opponents on an idea, you don't have to be enemies.
Well stated, Neeli. I said earlier that at the University of Kentucky, we have to be more and do more, and I think what Neeli's described is what we would hope for in every student. Be more to do more for every student, be more, do more for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. That's our responsibility to you. I want to thank you all for attending. I know many of the faces here and know that you are strong advocates for higher education. We need your voice to remain strong. Neeli and I both agree when we go visit legislators, nobody enjoys not supporting higher education. They had the courage last year to even raise taxes to close some of the gaps. They couldn't all the way. But part of the reason I think they support us is they know you and they hear what you have to say about the good things we do. So thank you.
I'm going to use this mic because I'm afraid I'll blow up the system if I don't. I would like to present each one of you with a Louisville Forum Mint Julep Cup. Speaking of bourbon, there you go. That might come in handy. We thank you again both very much for being here this evening. And before we close the program today, I would also like to thank the members and the board of the Louisville Forum for allowing me to be your president this year. I also want to give special thanks to our vice president and treasurer, Stacy Huff, who planned the dinner this evening. And I want to thank Dan Hartledge because he helped arrange for us to get Dr. Bendapudi and Dr. Capilouto here. Thank you, Dan. And I also want to thank all the board members for making tonight a success. Let's all give them, the board members a big hand. Thank you. Housekeeping, for those not wanting to miss the rest of the first half of the U of L Syracuse game, we have a special area set up in the bar area where you can go start watching it immediately if you so choose. Finally, our next meeting will be held on Wednesday, March 13th at Vincenzo's. The topic is yet to be finalized, but will most likely be a discussion on the upcoming looming metro budgetary crisis. We hope to finalize that within the next week or so. Reservations may be made online at louisvilleforum.org or by calling our voicemail at 329-0111. Remember, be nice to people and have a good evening. Thank you.